and gentlemen, welcome back to Tech Showdown. My name is Kevin. This is my co-host City, and today we have a very fun video. So this is kind of a little bit of a revisited video. However, we did change around some things this time. So it's going to be a 390 versus 970 showdown. So representing AMD, we have this Asus R9 390 DC3, I call it the DirectC3 because it has the 3 fans here. And representing NVIDIA, we have the Gigabyte GTX 970 Xtreme Gaming. So this is definitely one of the best GTX 970s you can get, and that Asus 390 is definitely one of the better ones as far as the 390s go. So let's first jump in and talk about the differences between these two cards, the 970 and the 390. So obviously two completely different GPUs. The 390 is running the 28nm Grenada GPU, which is based on the GCN 1.1 architecture, the same as Hawaii, just with a few revisions here and there. And the NVIDIA card, the 970, is running on the GM204 Maxwell GPU, which is a cut-down version of what you get on the GTX 980. That means that you get 1,664 CUDA cores on the 970, about 20% less than a 980, and you get 2,560 shader processors on the 390, which is a bit less than what you get on the 390X. Now, as far as clock speeds go, this 390 in its OC mode was clocked at 1070 megahertz, so 1070 megahertz, which is pretty good. The reference for a 390 is 1000 megahertz or 1 gigahertz. This 970, on the other hand, has GPU Boost 2.0, which means it will automatically overclock if temperatures are allowed, and this guy goes up really high. On its OC setting, it was going up to 1430 megahertz, so that is really, really hauling. That is some crazy speed coming out of this 970. Now let's talk about memory then. So these cards differ quite massively when it comes to memory. So the 970 is featuring 4 gigabytes of GDDR5 memory at 7000 megahertz on a 256-bit bus. However, half a gig of that is at a slower speed, which is where all that controversy comes from. And this was also running slightly faster than the reference. The reference is 7000. This one, in its OC mode, is at 7100 megahertz, so a tiny bit higher there. Now, as far as the 390 goes, it's a pretty massive upgrade by comparison. It's coming with 8 gigabytes of GDDR5 memory at 6000 megahertz on a 512-bit bus. So that's double the memory of the R9 290, its predecessor, as you see in my rig right now, and a 20% higher memory bandwidth. So that's really good as well. In the OC setting on this Asus DirectC3, that will jump up again just another 100 megahertz to 6100, but that's plenty fast to get you by, and it's probably one of the biggest upgrades from the 290 to the 390 is the memory. Now, what about the TDP? So the newer Grenada GPU in the 390 is more refined than the older Hawaii GPU. So that means that the TDP came down just a bit, but it's better than what it used to be. So it used to be 300 watt TDP, which is pretty high, and now it's down to 275. But that is still extremely high to the very, very efficient Maxwell GPU we find in the 970, which has a TDP of just 145 watts, which is really low. So not only does it mean the card will be drawing less power, which is good for your power bill, but it also means that you'll be able to get away with a lot lower power supply depending on what you have in the rest of your rig rather than the 390. So let's talk about the coolers now. So this Xtreme Gaming has quite the ridiculous cooler on it as far as 970s going. Big heat sinks there. We see the same fans as you get on the G1 Gaming. A lot of other features as I went over in my unboxing and overview. Upgraded components, has ring lighting around each one of these fans. That WindForce logo will also light up, a nice backplate there. And this cooler is a real beast. When we tried it out recently on the 980 Ti, it did really well. So I was expecting very good results from this cooler on the 970. However, the 390 is still pretty good too. This is a massive DirectCU3 cooler. You see just huge 10mm heat pipes, really big. The heat sinks themselves are still quite good. It's quite, both these cards are very, very long, so watch out for that if you've got quite a small case. But the heat sinks on this are quite thin by comparison to the Xtreme Gaming, but the card is still extremely long, has a great Asus fans. The Strix logo will also light up. The back has a nice backplate there. And this card is also really, really good too. So if you want more details on the features of the coolers and all the other features they have, check out the unboxing and overview videos. Now with all of that out of the way, let's jump into the benchmark. So from the last time I did a 390 versus 970 comparison, there has been a heap of new drivers. So both of these cards are running on the latest drivers as of right now. And also I decided to do the benchmarks at a different resolution. So this time we'll be doing it on the ultra wide 3440 by 1440p resolution. However, the 3D mark benchmark will remain the same. We'll do 1080p, 1440p, and 4K. So it should be quite interesting. New drivers, new resolution. Let's jump into it and see which one of these cards comes out on top. So looking at the benchmarks there, we see that it's a pretty comfortable win for the 390. It's sort of extenuated its win over the 970. Now, I don't think this is due to the models of card that I am using, as this, DC3 390 is a really great card, but the Xtreme Gaming 970 is possibly the best, model of 970 that you can get. I'm thinking that this is mostly due to the fact that the drivers, as of late, have been a lot better on the AMD side of things. Some of the NVIDIA drivers have been giving people really hideous kind of problems, especially people running multi-monitors. But they haven't been as much of a jump up as some of the Radeon drivers that have been coming out. So I think that's the big thing here. The new drivers from AMD have just been much, much better than the new ones coming out for NVIDIA. But still good scores there for the 970. It's definitely humming along quite nicely there. We see in the 3D Mark V Strike, it was extremely close there. So maybe the drivers weren't really helping the AMD card as much in there. But still really interesting results, but a definite, win for the 390 as far as performance goes. However, performance isn't everything, and what about temperatures? So temperatures and efficiency is where the NVIDIA cards usually pull quite far ahead from the AMD, and it's, as you would expect this time around. So the 390 does a decent job, however, it still does get pretty damn hot. So for my temperature testing, I did Unigen Valley on the Xtreme HD preset, and I took the highest temperatures and the highest fan speed they went up to. The DirectCU3 390 went up to 86 degrees Celsius at 45% fan speed, whereas the Xtreme Gaming 970 went up to 59 degrees Celsius at 64% fan speed. So we can see there that the 970 is coming in at a, what's that, 20% higher fan speed. However, well, 19%. But yeah, however, the significantly lower temperature, like that is a huge difference, 59 degrees to 86 degrees. The 970 handily wins it in temperature. That is a heap of cooling that's going on this card, and it'll also give you a lot of overclocking headroom then, since the temperatures are so low. However, we also got to talk about noise. So is that higher fan speed really going to hurt the 970? Well, honestly, it didn't. In my noise testing, the 970 was quieter than this DC3 390. So that was pretty interesting. And another thing, which is usually, this is usually the other way around, is that the 390 had much more coil whine than the 970. Usually 970s have got a semi-notorious relationship for having some, hideous coil whine. However, this 970 was perfect. There was very, very little coil whine coming from it. I think it might have something to do with the upgraded components on it, but it just did a really, really good job in terms of coil whine. However, I'll let you judge for yourself. So this noise testing was taken from the same benchmark we just saw, the Unity Valley benchmark, and I took it at the exact same time in the benchmark, and I'll let you guys decide which one is better in terms of noise. So we see there that the 390 still does a pretty decent job as far as noise goes, especially since this is running at a lower fan speed, but not really as good as I would have hoped, and there was a decent amount of coil whine coming out of this 390. So in terms of noise, I have to give it definitely to this Xtreme Gaming 970. It definitely wins there. Which brings us now to the conclusion, and which one of these cards do I recommend? So right now, price-wise, this Xtreme Gaming 970 is quite expensive. It's definitely one of the higher-end models of the 970. However, I do like it that Gigabyte made their sort of like top-end model available at some of the lower cards. Not lower-end, but you know what I mean. Like usually they'll just save the best model of card to just their 980 Ti's or whatever. So nice to see them using it on the 970, and some of their other cards as well also feature it, so that's really cool. And the 970 does a really good job in terms of heat and noise, so that was really impressive, and I definitely got to commend it for it. 59 degrees Celsius is really, really cool for a graphics card fully running at full load. However, this 970 is coming in with a bit of a price tag to it. Whereas the DC3 390, the one we see here, it does have a much, well not much, but it is coming in at a lower price than that 970. And in pure performance, it was getting, good amounts, maybe 8 frames higher, and some of them it was more than 10 frames higher in the benchmark. So just like in my last 390 versus 970 Showdown, I have to give it to the 390. It's just the most logical choice. It's getting quite a bit better performance, and it's coming in at a lower price. Now, it is going to be running significantly hotter, and it is going to be a bit louder, but I honestly think that the majority of you gamers out there and consumers that are looking to buy a graphics card would, rather sacrifice those and have the better performance at a lower cost. However, you probably can overclock the 970 further, that being said, but probably not enough to close that much of a gap between them in terms of performance. So I definitely just got to give it to the Asus DirectCU3 R9 390. Now, I thank you all for watching this video. Please subscribe to Tech Showdown if you haven't already, and check me out on Patreon if you want to support me so I can keep making awesome showdowns like this. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.